Royal DNA detected in a homeless human. The throne had been vacant for 1,000 years. Part 4. The challenge. 2 weeks passed on Celesta Prime. Ji-hoon learned more in those 14 days than he had learned in his entire life. Commander Do-won taught him military strategy. Historian Choi Won-jin taught him the laws and customs of the Eternal Dynasty. Scientist Han Yuna taught him about the technology that powered the empire. But most importantly, Ji-hoon learned how to fight. He had always been strong. Years on the streets had taught him to survive. He knew how to take a punch. He knew how to use his fists. But the fighting styles of the galaxy were different. They used weapons he had never seen before. Energy blades that could cut through steel. Force shields that could stop bullets. Combat suits that made their wearers faster and stronger than any normal being. Ji-hoon trained for 12 hours every day. His muscles screamed in pain. His bones felt like they were breaking. But he did not stop. He could not stop, because he knew what was coming. On the 15th day, High Counselor Baek Soyeon made her move. She called a meeting of the full Galactic Council, all 200 members from across the 1,000 worlds. Ji-hoon was brought to the great chamber where they gathered. It was a massive room, shaped like a circle, with seats rising up in levels all around a central platform. Every seat was filled with alien faces of every shape and color. Ji-hoon was the only human in the room. Soyeon stood on the platform, dressed in robes of silver and black. She looked at Ji-hoon with eyes full of hatred. "Members of the council," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "We have all heard the claims about this human. We have all seen the genetic tests. But I stand before you today to say that blood alone is not enough." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Ji-hoon stood very still, watching. "The Eternal Dynasty was built by warriors," Soyeon continued. "By leaders who proved their strength in battle. By rulers who earned their throne through courage and skill. This human has proven nothing. He is a beggar from a backwater world. He has never led an army. He has never won a war. He has never done anything but survive." "Surviving is harder than you think?" Ji-hoon said quietly. Soyeon ignored him. "Therefore, I invoke the ancient tradition. I demand the trial of stars." The chamber exploded with noise. Some of the council members shouted in protest. Others cheered. Commander Do-won grabbed Ji-hoon's arm and pulled him close. "This is bad," he whispered. "The trial of stars is an ancient test. It was used by the old emperors to prove their worth. It involves combat against the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Can I refuse?" "You can. But if you do, the council will never accept you as emperor. You will be nothing more than a pretender with royal blood." Ji-hoon looked around the chamber. He saw the alien faces staring at him. Some with curiosity. Some with contempt. Some with hope. He saw the humans watching from the viewing galleries above, workers and servants who had come to see what would happen. Their eyes were full of fear and prayer. He thought about his life. He thought about all the times he had been pushed down, told he was worthless, treated like garbage. He thought about his ancestors who had lived in poverty while their throne sat empty. He thought about the millions of humans across the galaxy who worked as slaves and servants because there was no one to speak for them. And he made his decision. "I accept," he said loudly. The chamber went silent. Soyeon smiled, but there was no joy in it. Only satisfaction, like a hunter who had finally trapped her prey. "Very well," she said. "The trial will begin tomorrow. You will face 3 champions, one after another. If you survive all 3 battles, you will be recognized as the true heir. If you fall, your claim dies with you." That night, Ji-hoon could not sleep. He stood by the window of his quarters and looked out at the endless city of Celesta Prime. Lights sparkled in every direction, like a sea of stars had fallen to the ground. Somewhere in that city, 3 warriors were preparing to kill him. "You do not have to do this," said a voice behind him. He turned and saw Han Yuna standing in the doorway. She looked worried. Double quotes. "Yes, I do," he said. "Why?" "You could leave. You could go back to Vega 4. No one would stop you." Ji-hoon shook his head. "You do not understand. All my life, I have been running. Running from hunger. Running from cold. Running from people who wanted to hurt me. I am tired of running. I am tired of being afraid. If I'm going to die, I want to die fighting for something that matters." Yuna walked closer. "And what matters to you?" "Those people," Ji-hoon said, pointing out the window. "The humans. The workers. The forgotten ones. I was one of them. I know what it feels like to be invisible. To be treated like you are less than nothing. If there is even a small chance that I can change that, then I have to try." Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. "This is a neural enhancer," she said. "It will increase your reaction speed by 30%. It is illegal to use in the trial, but no one will know if you know." Ji-hoon pushed her hand away gently. "If I cheat, then everything I said means nothing. I will face them honestly. Win or lose, I will do it with my own strength." Yuna's eyes filled with tears. "You are either the bravest man I have ever met or the most foolish." Ji-hoon smiled. "Probably both." The next morning, the arena was full. 100,000 beings had come to watch. Billions more watched through screens across the galaxy. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Trial of Stars was being held. Ji-hoon walked onto the sand floor of the arena. He wore a simple combat suit, white and gold, with the symbol of the Eternal Dynasty on his chest. In his hand, he carried an energy blade. It felt strange in his grip, but he had practiced with it for 2 weeks. It would have to be enough. The first champion was a giant from the world of Iron Peak. He was 3 meters tall, covered in natural armor made of living metal. His name was Gorak, and he had killed 400 opponents in arena combat. Gorak charged with a roar that shook the ground. Ji-hoon dove to the side, barely avoiding a fist that would have crushed his skull. He rolled, came up, and slashed at the giant's leg. The blade bounced off the metal skin. For 10 minutes, they fought. Ji-hoon was faster, but Gorak was stronger. Every hit that landed sent Ji-hoon flying. His ribs cracked. Blood poured from cuts on his face. But he kept getting up. Finally, he saw his chance. Gorak raised both arms for a killing blow. Ji-hoon ran forward instead of backward. He slid between the giant's legs, turned, and drove his blade into the small gap at the back of Gorak's knee. Where the armor was weakest, Gorak fell with a crash that echoed across the arena. He was not dead, but he could not stand. The crowd roared. In the viewing box above, Soyun's face went pale. 2 more champions waited. Ji-hoon stood in the center of the arena, bleeding and broken, and raised his blade toward them. Who is next? He shouted. The second champion stepped forward. Then the third. Ji-hoon smiled through bloody teeth. He was not going to run anymore. Royal Dien, a detected in a homeless human. The throne had been vacant for 1,000 years. Part 3. The Revelation, the Imperial flagship, was the largest ship Ji-hoon had ever seen. It was 10 kilometers long, covered in golden armor, and carried a crew of 50,000. When the shuttle docked inside its massive hangar, Ji-hoon felt like an ant crawling into a palace built for giants. Commander Do-hwan led him through endless corridors of white marble and crystal. Paintings hung on the walls, showing scenes from history. Ji-hoon recognized none of them at first. Then he saw a face that looked familiar. It was a woman with kind eyes and black hair. She wore a crown of silver stars, and she held a baby in her arms. The painting was titled Queen Park Selman with the infant prince, year 4892 of the dynasty. Is that? Ji-hoon could not finish the question. Your ancestor, Do-hwan said. The last queen. She escaped on the night of the Great Purge with her son. For years, assassins hunted her across the galaxy. She finally found refuge on Earth, where she hid among the human population. Earth, Ji-hoon repeated. He knew that name. All humans knew it. Earth was the home world, the planet where humanity had evolved millions of years ago. Now it was just another colony, controlled by alien corporations that mined its resources and used its people for cheap labor. She died there, Do-hwan continued. But her son survived. He married a local woman. They had children. Those children had children. Generation after generation, the bloodline continued. It weakened over time, mixed with ordinary human DNA, but it never disappeared completely. They entered a large chamber filled with machines and computers. Scientists in white coats moved around, preparing equipment. In the center of the room stood a tall pillar of crystal, glowing with soft blue light. This is the archive, said a voice behind them. Ji-hoon turned and saw a woman walking toward him. She was tall and beautiful, with silver hair and eyes that showed no warmth. She moved like a snake, smooth and dangerous. Everything about her made Ji-hoon feel uneasy. I am High Counselor Baek Soyeon, she said. I have governed the Galactic Council in the dynasty's absence for 300 years. Welcome to Celesta Prime. Ji-hoon did not bow. He did not know why, but something told him not to show weakness in front of this woman. Thank you, he said simply. Soyeon's eyes narrowed slightly, but her smile did not change. The archive contains the genetic records of every member of the Eternal Dynasty. It will confirm your bloodline beyond any doubt. Please, step forward. Ji-hoon walked to the crystal pillar. The scientists attached small devices to his arms and neck. The pillar began to glow brighter. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the pillar's light turned from blue to gold, and a voice spoke from the air itself. It was a deep voice, old and powerful, like thunder from a distant mountain. Sovereign sequence. Confirmed. Bloodline verified. This individual is the direct descendant of Queen Park Selman and King Park Tae-ho. He is the rightful heir to the crystal throne. The scientists gasped. Some of them dropped to their knees. Even Commander Do-hwan looked shocked, as if hearing it from the archive made it more real. Only Soyeon remained standing, her face like a mask of stone. Well, she said quietly. It seems the legends were true after all. Ji-hoon pulled the devices off his body. His mind was spinning. All his life, he had been nobody. Now, a machine older than human civilization was telling him he was a king. I need to know more, he said. About the Great Purge, about my family, about why I was living under a bridge while a throne sat empty. Soyeon's smile flickered. Those are questions for historians, not for me. Then find me a historian. An old man stepped forward. His name was Choi Won-jin, and he had spent 200 years studying the Eternal Dynasty. He looked at Ji-hoon with eyes full of sorrow and something else. Guilt, perhaps. The truth is painful, Your Majesty, he said. Are you sure you want to hear it? I have lived on the streets for 7 years, Ji-hoon replied. I have known nothing but pain. Tell me the truth. Won-jin nodded slowly. The Great Purge was not a random attack. It was planned by members of the Galactic Council itself. They wanted power for themselves. They hired assassins, bribed guards, and murdered the entire royal family in one night. Ji-hoon's hands curled into fists. The council? Not the current council, Soyeon said quickly. That was 1,000 years ago. Those people are long dead. But their families still hold power, Won-jin continued, ignoring Soyeon's cold stare. Their descendants still sit on the council. They have ruled the galaxy for 10 centuries, enjoying wealth and authority that was never meant to be theirs. And my family? My ancestors on Earth? Wanjin looked at the floor. They were monitored, controlled. Every generation, agents were sent to watch them, to make sure they stayed poor, to make sure they never rose too high or gained too much attention. Your family was deliberately kept in poverty for 1,000 years. The room went very quiet. Ji-hoon's whole body was shaking now. Not from fear, from rage. "You were telling me," he said slowly, "that I was homeless because someone wanted me to be homeless? That my parents died in poverty because someone made them poor? That generations of my family suffered because the council wanted to keep us down?" "Yes," Wanjin whispered. "That is exactly what I am telling you." Ji-hoon turned to look at Soyeon. Her face was still calm, but something moved behind her eyes. Fear, perhaps. Or calculation. "Did you know?" he asked her. "I knew there were protocols regarding the bloodline," she said carefully. "I did not know the details." Liar. The word came out like a knife. Ji-hoon did not know where his courage came from, but he felt it burning in his chest like fire. "You have ruled for 300 years. You knew exactly what was happening. You are one of them." For a moment, no one moved. Then Soyeon smiled, and it was the coldest smile Ji-hoon had ever seen. "You are clever for a homeless man," she said. "But being clever is not the same as being powerful. You may have royal blood, but you have nothing else. No army, no allies, no knowledge of politics or war. You are a beggar who got lucky. Nothing more. Then why do you look so afraid?" Soyeon's smile disappeared. She took a step back, and for just a second, Ji-hoon saw the truth in her eyes. She was afraid. She was terrified. Because she knew what he represented. She knew that his existence threatened everything she had built. "This conversation is over," she said. "Guards, take the heir to his quarters. He needs rest before the formal ceremonies begin." The guards moved forward, but Commander Do-hwan stepped between them and Ji-hoon. "With respect, High Counselor," he said, "I answer to the throne, not to the council. And until the heir tells me otherwise, I will not leave his side." Soyeon stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned and walked out of the room, her silver hair flowing behind her like a banner of war. Ji-hoon watched her go. He knew in that moment that he had made an enemy. A powerful enemy who would do anything to stop him from taking the throne. But he also knew something else. He knew that he was not going to run. He was not going to hide. He was not going to be a victim anymore. The galaxy had stolen everything from his family. Now, he was going to take it back. "Commander," he said quietly, "I need you to teach me everything. Politics, history, war, everything." Do-hwan smiled. "It would be my honor, Your Majesty." Outside the window, the stars of Celesta Prime burned bright against the darkness. Somewhere among them, billions of humans waited without knowing what was coming. Change was coming. And its name was Park Ji-hoon. Royal DNA detected in a homeless human. The throne had been vacant for 1,000 years. Part 2. The retrieval 3 days after the drone's discovery. A ship descended from the sky over Vega 4. It was not an ordinary ship. It was a royal shuttle, painted in gold and white, with the symbol of the Eternal Dynasty on its hull. That symbol, a circle of 12 stars around a blazing sun, had not been seen in 1,000 years. People on the streets stopped and stared. Some of them fell to their knees without knowing why. Inside the shuttle, Commander Kim Do-hwan checked his uniform for the 5th time. He was nervous, more nervous than he had ever been in his life. He had fought in 3 wars. He had faced pirates and rebels and monsters from the dark spaces between stars. But nothing had prepared him for this mission. Remember, Admiral Myray said through his earpiece. Treat him with respect. He may not know who he is. He may not believe you. But he is still the heir. Act accordingly. Understood, Admiral, Do-Hwan replied. The shuttle landed in an empty square near the bridge where Ji-hoon lived. 30 soldiers stepped out first, forming a protective circle around the landing site. They wore the white armor of the Imperial Guard, a unit that had not existed for 10 centuries. Behind them came Do-Hwan, followed by 2 genetic scientists and a historian who specialized in the Eternal Dynasty. They found Ji-hoon sitting against a wall, eating a piece of stale bread he had found in a garbage container. He looked up at the soldiers with tired eyes. He had seen soldiers before. Usually, they came to chase homeless people away from places where rich aliens wanted to build things. You need to leave, Ji-hoon said. I will move. Just give me a moment. Do-Hwan walked forward. Then, slowly, he lowered himself to one knee. Behind him, all 30 soldiers did the same. Ji-hoon stared at them. What are you doing? My name is Commander Kim Do-Hwan, the soldier said. I have come to bring you home, Your Majesty. Ji-hoon laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. Your Majesty? Are you crazy? Look at me. I am nobody. I am less than nobody. I sleep under a bridge and eat garbage. Go away and find whoever you are really looking for. We have found him, Do-Hwan said. 3 days ago, a census drone scanned your genetic code. You carry markers that have not been seen in 1,000 years. You are the direct descendant of Queen Park Selman, last ruler of the Eternal Dynasty. You are the rightful heir to the Crystal Throne. Ji-hoon stopped laughing. He looked at the soldiers kneeling before him, at the golden shuttle behind them, at the symbol of the 12 stars and the sun. Something cold moved through his chest. This is a joke, he said. Someone is playing a cruel joke on me. It is no joke, sir. One of the scientists stepped forward. She was a young woman named Han Yuna, and she held a small device in her hand. May I scan you? I can prove what the commander says is true. Ji-hoon did not move. He did not speak. After a long moment, he nodded. Yuna pressed the device against his arm. It hummed softly for 3 seconds, then beeped. She looked at the screen, and her eyes went wide. Sovereign sequence confirmed, she said. Match rate, 99.97%. He is the heir. The soldiers around them began to murmur. Some of them had tears in their eyes. For 1,000 years, the galaxy had waited. For 1,000 years, the throne had been empty. And now, finally, the waiting was over. But Ji-hoon did not share their joy. He looked at his dirty hands and his torn clothes, at the piece of stale bread he still held. You have made a mistake, he said quietly. I cannot be what you say I am. I am just a homeless man. I have nothing. I am nothing. You are everything, Do-Hwan said. Please, sir, come with us. Let us take you to Celesta Prime. Let us show you who you truly are. And if I refuse? Do-Hwan hesitated. He had not expected this question. In his mind, he had imagined that the heir would be happy. He had imagined celebration and joy. Not this broken man who looked at a golden shuttle like it was a prison. Then we will wait, Do-Hwan finally said. We will not force you. But please understand, the galaxy needs you. For 1,000 years, we have had no true ruler. The council governs, but they are weak and divided. Wars break out every decade. Billions suffer. Your ancestors built an empire of peace and justice. Only you can rebuild it. Ji-hoon was silent for a long time. He thought about his life. He thought about the years of hunger and cold and loneliness. He thought about all the times he had begged for help and been ignored. He thought about the factory that threw him away, like garbage when he was no longer useful. No one had ever told him he was important. No one had ever told him he mattered. And now, these people were kneeling before him, telling him he was the most important person in the galaxy. It was too much. It was impossible. Impossible. And yet, a small voice in the back of his mind whispered, "What if it is true?" "I will come with you," he said at last. "But I make no promises. I am not an emperor. I do not know how to rule anything. You may be very disappointed." Dawan smiled for the first time. "We will not be disappointed, Your Majesty. I promise you that." They led Ji-hoon to the shuttle. As he walked, people began to gather around the square. Word had spread quickly. Humans who lived in the slums of Vega-4, workers and beggars and forgotten people. They all came to see what was happening. When they saw the soldiers kneeling, when they saw the golden shuttle with its ancient symbol, when they heard the whispers about a human heir, something changed in their eyes. Hope, for the first time in generations. Humans on this alien world felt hope. Ji-hoon stopped at the shuttle door and looked back at them. These were his people. Hungry, tired, beaten down by life, just like him. He had lived among them for years. He had shared their suffering. "I will not forget you," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Whatever happens, I will not forget." Then he stepped inside the shuttle, and the door closed behind him. As the ship rose into the sky, Ji-hoon looked out the window at the world he was leaving behind. He saw the bridge where he had slept. He saw the streets where he had begged for food. He saw the factories that had used him and thrown him away. And for the first time, he felt something other than despair. He felt anger. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a fire was beginning to burn. He did not yet know what he would do with it. He did not yet know who he would become. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. If he truly was the heir to an empire, then things were going to change. The shuttle broke through the atmosphere and entered the darkness of space. Ahead of them, the stars waited. Behind them, a planet full of suffering people looked up at the sky and wondered if their prayers had finally been answered. The journey to Celesta Prime would take 3 days. In that time, Ji-hoon would learn things that would break his heart and set his soul on fire. But for now, he simply watched the stars go by and tried to believe that this was real. Royal Dien, a detected in a homeless human. The throne had been vacant for 1,000 years. Part 1. The scanner. The rain fell hard on the colony world of Vega-4. It was a cold rain, the kind that made bones ache and skin turn pale. Under an old bridge made of rusted metal, a man slept on a pile of cardboard boxes. His name was Park Ji-hoon, and he had not eaten in 3 days. Ji-hoon was 32 years old, but he looked much older. His hair was long and dirty. His clothes were torn. His shoes had holes in them. He'd been homeless for 7 years now, ever since the factory where he worked shut down and threw all its workers onto the streets. No one cared about humans on Vega-4. This was an alien world, and humans were nothing more than cheap labor here. He pulled his thin blanket tighter around his body and tried to sleep. Tomorrow, he would look for food again. Maybe someone would throw away something he could eat. Maybe he would find work for a few hours. Or maybe he would just lie here and wait for death to finally come. It did not matter much to him anymore. Above the city, something moved through the dark clouds. It was a drone, small and silver, with blue lights on its sides. It was a census drone, sent by the Galactic Council to scan every living being in the colony. This happened every 50 years. The drones would fly over cities, villages, and wilderness. They would scan everyone and everything. It was how the Council kept track of the population across 10,000 worlds. The drone flew low over the bridge. Its scanner activated with a soft hum. A beam of blue light passed over Ji-hoon's sleeping body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the drone stopped moving. It hovered in place, its lights blinking rapidly. Inside the drone's computer, something impossible had happened. The scan had detected genetic markers that should not exist. Markers that had not been seen in 1,000 years. The drone's programming forced it to scan again. And again. And again. Each time, the result was the same. The drone sent an emergency signal. That signal traveled faster than light, crossing the vast distances between stars in mere seconds. It reached the Imperial Command Station on the other side of the galaxy, where it triggered alarms that had been silent for centuries. Admiral Yu was drinking tea in her office when the alarm sounded. She was an old woman, over 200 years old, thanks to the life-extending treatments available to high-ranking officers. She had served the Galactic Council for most of her life, but she had never heard this particular alarm before. She walked to her command console and read the message. Her hands began to shake. Her teacup fell to the floor and shattered, but she did not notice. "This is impossible," she whispered. The message was simple. It said, "Sovereign sequence detected. Location, VEGA4, Sector 7. Human male. Bloodline match, 99.97% to Eternal Dynasty. The Eternal Dynasty." Those words had not been spoken with hope in 1,000 years. Once they had ruled the galaxy. The eternal emperors and empresses had united 1,000 worlds under their banner. They had brought peace and order to species that had been at war for millions of years. They had been wise, fair, and powerful. Then came the Great Purge. No one knew who started it. Some said it was jealous alien nobles. Others said it was a rebellion from within. All that mattered was the result. In one terrible night, the entire royal family was killed. Every prince, every princess, every cousin and aunt and uncle. All of them murdered in their beds. The last queen, a woman named Park Soman, had escaped with her infant son. She fled across the galaxy, hiding from assassins who hunted her for years. Eventually, she reached a small blue planet called Earth, where she disappeared into the population of primitive humans who lived there for 1,000 years. The crystal throne on Celesta Prime had sat empty. The Galactic Council governed in the dynasty's absence, but they were not rulers. They were caretakers, waiting for the day when a true heir might be found. And now, on a rainy night on Vega 4, a census drone had found one. Admiral Myray contacted High Counselor Beek Soyan immediately. The counselor was a woman of great power and greater ambition. She had led the council for 300 years, and she had grown comfortable with her authority. When she heard the news, her face showed no emotion at all. "Are you certain?" she asked. "The drone scanned him 12 times, Myray replied. "There is no mistake. He carries the sovereign sequence in his blood. He is a direct descendant of Queen Park Soman." "A human," Soyan said quietly. "The heir to the Eternal Dynasty is a human." "Yes, Counselor." Soyan was silent for a long moment. In her mind, she was calculating. She had spent centuries building her power. She had made alliances, crushed enemies, and shaped the galaxy according to her will. Now, some random human on a backwater colony world threatened everything she had built. "Send a retrieval team," she finally said. "Bring him to Celesta Prime. We must confirm this with the Imperial Archives. And if it is true, then we will deal with it," Soyan said coldly. "One way or another." Meanwhile, on Vega 4, Ji-hoon woke up to the sound of thunder. He did not know that his life was about to change forever. He did not know that ships were already flying toward his planet, carrying soldiers and diplomats and scientists. He did not know that his blood carried the key to ruling the largest empire in galactic history. He only knew that he was hungry, cold, and alone. He crawled out from under the bridge and looked up at the sky. The rain had stopped and the clouds were breaking apart. Through a gap in the clouds, he could see the stars. Thousands of them, millions of them, stretching across the heavens like diamonds on black cloth. Beautiful, he whispered. He had always loved the stars. Even when he had nothing else, he had the stars. They made him feel less alone. They reminded him that the universe was vast and full of wonders, even if his own life was small and painful. Somewhere out there, among those stars, a fleet was gathering. History was beginning to move. And at the center of it all was a homeless man who did not even know his own name was about to echo across the galaxy. Park Ji-hoon, last heir of the Eternal Dynasty, went back to sleep under his bridge. He dreamed of nothing at all. But tomorrow, everything would change. Royal Dien, a detected in a homeless human. The throne had been vacant for 1,000 years. Part 5. The throne. The second champion was a shadow dancer from the Void Worlds. Her name was Sarah, and she moved like smoke, appearing and disappearing in flashes of darkness. Ji-hoon could not see her. He could not predict her. All he could do was feel. He closed his eyes. On the streets, he had learned to sense danger before it arrived. When you slept in alleys and under bridges, you developed an instinct for survival. That instinct had kept him alive for 7 years. Now, it would keep him alive for 7 more minutes. Sarah attacked from behind. Ji-hoon spun and blocked. She attacked from the left. He dodged. She attacked from above, below, from every direction at once. Each time, he was barely fast enough. Each time, her blade left new cuts on his body. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds now. His vision was getting dark at the edges, but he did not fall. He remembered something Do-won had told him during training. The shadow dancers are fast, but they cannot maintain their invisibility forever. Watch for the moment when they solidify. That is when they are weakest. Ji-hoon waited. He let Sarah cut him again and again. He let the pain wash over him like cold water. And then he saw it. A flicker. A moment when the shadows around her became solid. He threw his blade. It was a desperate move. A stupid move. Every instructor he had ever had would have screamed at him for letting go of his weapon. But Sarah was not expecting it. The blade caught her in the shoulder, pinning her to the ground. Before she could disappear again, Ji-hoon was on top of her, his hands around her throat. "Yield," he said. She struggled for a moment. Then she went limp. "I yield." The crowd was silent now. They had expected him to lose. They had expected a quick death for the human pretender. Instead, they were watching something impossible. The third champion walked onto the sand. He was a human. Ji-hoon stared. He had not expected this. The man was tall and strong, with scars covering his face and arms. He wore the armor of the Imperial Guard, but his eyes were empty and cold. "Who are you?" Ji-hoon asked. "My name is Kang Min-ho," the man said. "I was raised to be a weapon, trained since birth to kill. The council found me when I was a child and made me what I am. I have no family. I have no home. I have nothing but my duty." "And your duty is to kill me?" "Yes." Ji-hoon picked up his blade. His arms were shaking with exhaustion. His body was screaming for rest. But he forced himself to stand straight. "You and I are the same," he said. "Both of us were used by the people in power. Both of us were thrown away when we were no longer useful. The only difference is that you still serve them, and I refuse to." Minho's eyes flickered. Something moved behind them. Doubt, perhaps? Or pain. "It does not matter what I want," he said. "I have my orders. Then ignore them." Ji-hoon lowered his blade. "Join me instead. Help me change this galaxy. Help me build a world where children are not turned into weapons and homeless men are not left to die in the streets." "I cannot." "Why not?" Minho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, His voice was barely a whisper. Because if I stopped following orders, then everything I have done was meaningless. All the people I killed, all the pain I caused, it would all be for nothing. Ji-hoon walked forward. He was close enough now that Minho could kill him with a single strike. But he did not raise his blade. It was already for nothing, he said gently. The council used you. They broke you and shaped you into their tool. But you are still human. You can still choose. You can still be more than what they made you. Tears ran down Minho's scarred face. His hand shook. His blade rose, then fell, then rose again. And then he dropped it. I yield, he said. The arena erupted. 100,000 voices screamed and cheered. In the viewing galleries, humans wept with joy. On worlds across the galaxy, billions watched as a homeless man did the impossible. Ji-hoon turned to face Soyeon's box. She was standing, her face white with fury and fear. The trial is complete, he shouted. I have defeated all 3 champions. By the ancient law, I am the rightful heir to the crystal throne. Does the council accept this? One by one, the council members rose from their seats. One by one, they bowed their heads. Even Soyeon, in the end, had no choice but to bend her knee. The council accepts, she said, her voice like poison. 3 days later, the coronation took place in the Great Hall of Celesta Prime. It was the largest gathering in galactic history. Representatives from every world, every species, every corner of civilization came to witness the moment. Ji-hoon walked down the long aisle toward the crystal throne. He wore robes of white and gold, embroidered with the 12 stars and the blazing sun. Behind him walked Commander Do-hwan, scientist Han Yuna, historian Choi Won-jin, and Kan Min-ho, now sworn to serve the new emperor. The throne waited at the end of the hall. It was made of pure crystal, glowing with inner light. It had sat empty for 1,000 years, waiting for this moment. Ji-hoon climbed the steps and turned to face the crowd. He looked out at the sea of faces, aliens of every kind. And among them, scattered throughout the hall, humans, workers, servants, the forgotten ones. His people. 10 centuries ago, he said, my ancestor sat on this throne. She ruled with wisdom and justice. She brought peace to a galaxy that had known only war. And then she was murdered, along with everyone she loved. His voice echoed through the silent hall. For 1,000 years, my family was hunted. We were kept poor. We were kept weak. We were told we were nothing. I grew up on the streets, eating garbage and sleeping under bridges. I believed what they told me. I believed I was worthless. He paused, letting the words sink in. But I was wrong. And so were they. Because here I stand, despite everything they did to stop me. Here I stand, the last son of the eternal dynasty. And I make this promise to every being in this galaxy, especially to those who have been forgotten and abandoned like I was. I will not fail you. I will not forget you. As long as I breathe, you will have a voice. He sat down on the crystal throne. The moment his body touched it, light exploded outward, filling the entire hall. The light was warm and golden, like sunlight after a storm. It touched everyone present, and for just a moment, they all felt something they had not felt in a very long time. Hope. I am Park Ji-hoon the First, he declared, Emperor of the Eternal Dynasty, and the galaxy will never forget what they almost threw away. In the viewing galleries, humans fell to their knees and wept. On Vega 4, in the slums where Ji-hoon had once slept, people danced in the streets. On Earth, the homeworld of humanity, they looked up at the stars and finally believed that tomorrow might be better than today. The homeless man wore the crown, and nothing would ever be the same again.